here, I'll tend to just kind of wrap it up on the cleat on this side here. So once it's undone, it's going to bring it to the back of the boom, and it's going to connect right up here. And so that holds the boom up in place. I tend to keep the sails only in the cockpit for now. So then these are...
Go ahead.
What I tend to do first, which is what I went to show you a bit ago, is first I'll go ahead and undo this right here, the main sheet, and I'll just drop it down there. That allows this to give you slack, and so it'll come down, and you'll basically just, tie it off. However, just a little better than that, of course, but just run it down.
I have to learn my knots, right?
There you go. So it's tied off there, and this line here, the very tip of it is just going to feed through here. I always put a knot at the very end like that, because you never know when the wind's going to grab it, and if you let go of the sheet, if that thing comes out, you might be in trouble. With a knot in the end, it's going to grab it and allow you to get it, and you've got control again. Okay. Okay. So I'll just kind of snug it briefly right there. That has to be loose when you're ready to raise the sail up. Okay. So while I'm getting the sails out, I'll mention, as I was saying about the wind, usually somewhere around 5-7 knot winds is a good kind of real quiet putting around kind of day. There's no excitement at all, but it's enjoyable. It's quiet. You start getting upwards around 10-12 knots. That's a pretty comfortable sail for the boat. The boat tends to have its best speed at about 10 degrees of heel, which you can see on the compass what your degrees of heel is. So somewhere around 10 degrees is about a good heel for it for overall speed. The boat will heel at 15 and sometimes even 20 degrees. You're not going over at that point. 20 degrees may feel like you're getting there, but you're not going over. And then, of course, if you start getting upwards around 17, 18 to 20 knots, if you're going to be out there, reef the mainsail. Otherwise, just don't even bother to go out at that point if the winds are supposed to be picking up or if it's going to be gusting of that nature.
Okay, now what would it be comfortable wind-wise for just motoring? Putting around for an hour radius?
Just motoring, I would say anything probably less than, as long as the seas themselves, because sometimes you'll get some pretty heavy chop when there's only 15 knot winds. Right. But then again, it might be the bay or the intercoastal may be kind of fairly flat, and but it still may be 22, 25 knot winds even. It just depends on the direction the wind's coming. So at that point, if you're just going to be motoring, I kind of pay attention to the chop. Okay. If you start seeing white caps, the boat's still completely safe, but then the wind is picking up, the current's picking up, you're best to go ahead and get back in. Right, okay, gotcha. And one of the things is always reef early, because it's a lot easier to reef the mainsail early or drop the jib than what it is under the moment when it's very stressful and so forth. So this is your mainsail. It has a total of 3 battens. 2 are built in. They're real short, so they stay in the sail at all times. This right here, you can tell by the big plastic piece, that's going to be the top of your main. So you get the this line here, which I just kind of wrap up and I get it out the way. This is your main halyard, or main sheet, I'm sorry. And always look, because when you're trailing and you got the mast down, sometimes lines can kind of get wrapped. So you just make sure that it looks good and it's clear up there as this one is. And you can see all it does is go up there, it comes back down, and it's over to here. This has got to kind of clip. You pull right here, and that just flops open. So it'll be the same thing when you're ready to close it, same idea. So it goes around the top of the main, just like that. That's what I say, this here, go ahead and unscrew it, and it slides right out there. Just kind of put him aside. Most of the time I don't stick stuff up here, I put it in my pockets. That way I know exactly where they're at. And then you're going to go ahead and start feeding the main. That's to say, with these sail slugs right here, you don't have to put the whole main itself up there. So this makes it a lot easier just to feed the slug. Okay. Those are those white slugs you were showing me before that you keep in your Right, those
main
are extras in
hardware kit.
Now, if any of these ever got lost, like if you broke every one of them in some weird accident, the sail is designed to slide up the track.
Gotcha.
But everybody likes the slugs because it makes it real easy. They slide up and down. It doesn't bind.
Okay.
Okay. Once all the slugs are fed up the mast, then take this piece again like I was showing you, and I slip it right back in there and tighten it up.
Okay.
It just snugs right, because what that does is when you drop it, it keeps it all from just plopping right on back out.
And do you have a mark there where you like to keep it, or just I've just got to?
I just on this side here of the mast, you'll be able to see there's the opening where I'm feeding it up.
Right.
All I do is slip it right beyond that.
Okay.
And its whole purpose is just to keep all the slugs from falling back in.
Gotcha.
The bottom of the main right here is going to go into this clip right here. Just like that.
Gotcha.
So that's it. You can always try to take up the slack while I'm at it. That way it's just kind of out the way. You're going to find the back line here. Just feed it through the pulley. Just kind of pull the sail snug, and there's a cleat on this side of the pulley. Just run it over to this cleat and just cleat it off, and that's just going to hold the back of the sail right there.
Okay, now I know there's a batten,
right,
but we don't need. You don't need. Are you gonna put it in, or?
I am. That's
okay.
The batten's right here. This is the other one. The sail gets real stiff once you put this batten in. It's again with Velcro. I always put this piece isn't necessary, but I like to wrap it around the tip because what it does is it Velcros open like that.
Right, and it secures it.
And then see with the wind, you know, you're in the driveway already trying to grab it.
Sure. Now, why wouldn't pulling that up? Why wouldn't that push the boat over in the wind? Or just the wind's not strong enough to do that today, or?
In other words, that's the reason I kind of faced it into the wind.
Right, gotcha. All right.
Saying if I had it faced otherwise, then it almost the wind maybe kind of shifting a little bit here on.
Right.
So
okay.
Kind of watch it. That goes.
Yeah, I think the wind is shifting a little bit.
What's that?
It seems that I think the wind is shifting a little bit more towards your back, towards you, towards me.
May have to kind of run it without doing a whole lot. So
right.
Anyway, so once it's all.
Now you do this once you're out in the water, right? You're not doing this at the ramp.
No, I'm doing this at the ramp.
Are you? Okay.
So once it's in there, you know, the batten is pretty flexible.
Right.
So you can pretty much take it, and this will say, here are the reefing lines.
Okay.
Oh,
I see.
Each side, and I'll tend to go ahead and kind of wrap the sail up a little bit.
Gotcha.
Same thing up here. There's no reefing line up at the front, but if you got like these, if it's a strong enough windy day, like this, you just wrap it around it as well.
Gotcha, right. So you're just securing it until you get out in the water.
Right.
All right.
And everything is much easier without the wind blowing as much as it is. Well,
sure.
I was saying, today, I think right now they're calling it's, I think today's like 18 knot winds at the moment, gusting at 25 or so.
Sure.
So you see here it's a little more calm, but if you're out on the bay, so that's as far as that goes. And so then your sails are all done and they're on there, or at least the main sail is.
Right.
So the way you would end up, I'll run through the.
And then are you gonna? Okay, you're gonna also put the jib on too.
Right.
All right, before you raise anything. Now, do you have to can you sail with just the mainsail if you wanted as a beginner, or that does not matter?
It's actually the more sail you have up, the more you're going to move.
Okay.
Overnight, I'll bring it all the way down where it's all nice and wrapped up. But if I'm just at the launch and I'm getting ready to drop it in, I'm going out and I'm immediately sailing. That's why I go ahead and run the slugs on up it and put that piece, because that gets that done and out the way. I don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
Got this line over here, port side. Set it up to the front. More Velcro. Find the head of the sail. You can always real easily tell where the head is because you've got the downhaul line, which is tied to the top. That's also where the jib halyard is going to clip onto. So you go ahead and clip it, and then take some of your slack out to get it so it's not in the way or doesn't get tangled. Each of these right here are these brass clips. I'll show you from this side here. You pull on it and you see it opens. So all you're going to do is clip it onto the forestay, and you want to make sure your rope, which you call your downhaul, you want it to stay on there as well. Then you're going to take the bottom of your jib, and there's a clip that stays on the boat right here, and you're just going to go ahead and flip it on just like that, so it's fully on there.
Okay.
At that point, you're going to take your downhaul. The point of the downhaul is to quickly drop the jib without you having to climb to the front of the boat. So like I said, it runs all the way through to the very top. You're going to take it, it's going to slip through here, and then it's just going to come back here, and this is the cleat it's going to go on. So, you know, I'll tend to do something, put a little quick, you know, knot or something like that in it. But you go ahead and just feed it on through. And that is your downhaul. So if the sail's completely up, I'll show you how it works in a little bit, but say if you take the complete slack out of it, it's just going to pull that jib straight on down. So you can do that from the cockpit area without having to get to the front.
It'll make the jib just drop.
Right.
Okay.
These are your jib sheets. You've got, doesn't matter really which side what goes on, you're going to undo them. One is going over there and one is coming over here.
And you run them underneath that shroud?
It goes around the shroud on
around the outside of the shroud, okay.
Main thing with this this jib here, it's a 110, so therefore what that means, 100% jib is going to stop here. The 110 is going to overlap the mast, and then, you know, so forth. So but you'll run it around, same thing. Throw your little knot in there just to be sure. And I go ahead and just kind of bring this one over and snug it up just a little bit, because that keeps from flapping around. And you got to go to the other side. Basically ready to go.
Right.
And again, normally, I know it doesn't seem like it at the moment, but I can do it in 20 minutes.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Same thing. So this one here is just going to go, and I'll just snug it up on both sides when the downhaul hauls all the way down as well, because what that does just keeps it from flopping around.
Okay.
So make sure I've covered everything at this point. So at this point, she's ready to basically go in the water. I'll show you this real quick. This is your tiller tamer. I don't use it very often, but if you go to use it, all you do is take one line, run it in here, just kind of cleat it. The other line is going to go in here and it's going to cleat. And how this is going to work is you loosen the top, and if it's in there, you can see if it was snugged and tight, that's going to move. So what you'll do is if you're single-handing it, which you're going to do a lot to begin with this line, I'll go ahead and put it in there just so you see it. So the lines are in there and they're snug. So at this point it's still free. So if you need to do something up front, you go ahead and you find your position, you crank down on this here to where it tightens it, and this thing isn't going to go anywhere, you know, when these lines are actually pulled good and snug. And so that's your tiller tamer, basically tames the tiller so you can do what you need to do without having to worry about, because otherwise if you let go and go up there, the wind or current's going to move you. So I do like the tiller tamer. It comes in real handy. In the water, I'll tend to kind of just pick things up.
So everything that you just did is really before you put it in the water?
That is everything, right. Everything
before you tow it into the water, or it's already, because the ramp is a limited time. You don't want to be doing it in there.
Actually, as soon as I pull into the launch, I find a parking spot.
You're doing this all in parking spot, okay.
You always need to make sure that you're clear, you know, if your particular ramp is clear of any trees or anything, all the way down to the ramp.
And point the boat in towards the wind so there's less wind coming at it for this. But you're not raising it anyway, though, really.
That's the thing. The reason I did it in the driveway is just so you can see it when we raise the sail. But they won't be raised at the launch. So then it's just wherever you pull in. At this point, she's good. She's ready to go. Your sails are good and strapped and so forth. And so that's it. Like I said, you'll pick up anything like this will already be on the back of the boat. I'll show you a couple things in here real quick, which is unrelated, but piece of grass. There's a little tool kit. This is an extra gas cap for the motor. There's even an extra line so you can actually pull the cowl off. If that line would ever break, you've got an extra line in here you can wrap around and fire your motor up. So this is sort of like your little emergency. This is just extra rope. This cap right here, in the wintertime, this is great ventilation during the summer. But sometimes in winter it gets a little cold in that cabin. This unscrews and that cap
goes right in there and blocks it.
And that's it. Our winters tend to be fairly easy. They're not too harsh. If it's that cold, I'm not going to be out there anyway. So at that point, you just kind of clear up and put things, you know, make sure things are stashed. Now, some of this extra stuff is not going to be, of course, laying out. That's just so that's it. And so at this point, what you do is you go ahead and you take it down to the water, pull it up, back it in. I tend to, just for me, whenever the boat's at rest, I always take the tension off and also take the strap off the back. I tend to loosen them up. It doesn't hurt anything if you leave it, but I just like to take tension off the boat when it's sitting. But in general, it's going to be snugged up.
That's a winch,
like that. There's your winch. So you'll flip this here once you get down there. You flip that down, kind of pop it loose, run that. Take this off right here. Take your emergency chain off as well.
That chain is connected to the trailer, the second one as well.
That is correct. That is just in case your strap breaks. So if you undo your strap and you forget the chain, the boat's not coming off still. So that's just an extra, that's a safety chain. So both of those just come off. And at that point, what I'll do, I'll have the bow line, and I do all this on my own. I don't have my wife or anything help. I'll take the bow line, I'll go ahead and completely pull it off to where it's all out, and I'll tie the very end of it right around the mount here. So that way it's all in there, the boat's loose, I get back in the truck and I back it down just to where the boat starts to float a little bit. So then, you know, some people bag down and jerk them off. You don't need to, you know, this boat. So, and then you get on, I got the non-skid right here. So you'll come around, you climb up on the trailer, you'll walk around here, and you'll take your line, and I tend to leave it still tied for the meantime. And you can push on the bow pulpit, which is this right here. And you kind of push it, and you'll get it to slide off the boat and it'll float.
All right, hold on for a sec.
You'll have your bow line, and you'll also have your hook, your boat hook. And so you'll use that, and if you're on your dock, you can push it out. The boat hook extends out, so it's great to where you can kind of push the boat, get around your dock, come around, and while you've got the bow, you can use the hook, extend it out, grab onto any part of the boat, and pull it to you. And then go ahead and use the bow line to tie the bow off, and then whichever side you're on here, go ahead and tie the stern off. And at that point, she's floating. I go back around and I get back in the truck and pull the trailer up.
Now with the boat, you got to tie to something so it stays where it is, right? That's what you're talking about, the bow line? Yeah, okay.
You're right. Once you drop in the water, if your marina has a pier there, then
now what if it doesn't have a pier?
If you have beach, then you can just pull it around and pull it up onto the beach. If you don't and you've just got rocks, I haven't been in that situation.
You might need a second person to just hold it for you then while you go park the truck.
You can do that. Something like that would come in handy. I haven't been to a marina that.
Yeah, well, the one I'm going to
pier.
use, it looks like it's two real wide ramps.
Okay.
It's a county park ramp, and I don't think there's anything on the next to it. There's a ramp. I mean, there's like it's not really a pier though. It's just like a raised platform. But I don't know if there's anything you can tie anything to.
Okay.
So.
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah, if there's any kind of wood or any, like part of it that even if there's no cleat,
right.
If it's got a post that may be there,
right? Okay.
Kind of figure it out.
Anything to secure it. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, just any weight, right, to secure it. Then you go ahead and get the trailer back out the water, park it, and you're done.
Okay.
At that point, you're going to come back and you're going to go ahead and climb into the boat.
Right.
So one thing I forgot to mention, I mentioned earlier, but when the boat, right before you do, when you go in and unhook the chains and stuff in the strap, right before you do drop it in, so I said I normally go in at that point and start the motor up.
Right.
If it's been sitting for a week or 2 weeks or something, just because it just gets it going real quick. The main reason for that is because when it does first start up, that prop gets, spins pretty quick for a moment until
right.
you can idle it back down.
Gotcha.
And if you're at a pier and there's people around,
yeah,
so,
gotcha.
And because you can't do that with every motor, because most outboards are water cooled.
Right.
This one is air cooled, so it does not circulate water through it, and that's the reason is you can do that.
Right.
Okay. It is 4-stroke, so it's just plain gasoline. There's no oil mixture in it. So now you get back down, and you climb into the boat, and you go ahead, providing you've got enough clearance, you go ahead and lower the board down.
Right.
If you don't have enough clearance and it's going to be shortly out in the water a
right.
little ways, then everything is still pretty well secure. It's made to kick up, so what you'll do is just go ahead and loosen your rudder and drop it down just a little bit,
right,
and secure it back up. And so if it's dragging on the beach, it's no big deal,
right,
but that's what you'll use to steer. You do need to make sure you got enough clearance for your motor, of course, if it's
right.
running.
Otherwise, keep it up until
exactly.
I think it's 2 feet, but then it quickly becomes 3, and then the channel is
okay. So you shouldn't have any problem at all.
All right.
This boat only has something like a 6-inch draft normally, and then the motor hangs like a foot or something below. So
okay.
So you'll probably be okay.
What's the draft once you put the centerboard all the way down?
It's around 3 feet.
3 feet. Okay, good.
So like I said, I'm not gonna go ahead and lower it all the way down, but so with that down, and as soon as you get the first opportunity, this centerboard needs to go, like you can motor with the board up.
Right.
The boat will tend to drift sometimes depending on the current. It's
sure.
not as stable, all that sort of thing, but you can do it.
Right.
Do not raise the sails with that board
gotcha.
up.
I understand.
Because the first thing that will happen is it's going to take the boat over. And that's
right.
usually when you hear about a Potter capsizing, it's because that's what they did.
Right.
So as soon as you have the opportunity, go ahead and drop the rudder, excuse me, the centerboard. At that point, you're going to be leisurely in here. I do use the tiller to steer the boat. I always have the motor locked straight. You can use the motor if you need to loosen it up and use it as well, but you have to be careful because there's certain positions of the rudder. Now I haven't personally done this, but you can see it, and I've heard of people doing it where if you've got this loose and the rudder's up some and you happen to turn the motor one way, you
sure.
might hit the prop on the
sure.
rudder. So,
right.
I just always leave it locked
yeah.
and steer with the tiller.
Right.
So then you're motoring out, and it's usually best when you go to first lift the mainsail that you keep the motor kind of easing you along, because if you shut the motor off and then try to do it, you might drift some direction or another
right.
and facing the wrong way into the wind.
Right.
So as long as you got the motor going, you run along, you pay attention, and you can see that the wind, according to the Windex, of course it's flopping
right.
around on us a little bit up there because probably the house is causing it to whip around.
Sure.
But once you're into the wind, which now is actually a pretty good time, you'll need to just make sure if you got the main at all strapped up in any fashion, you're going to loosen it. It's going to kind of come out. You will end up needing to release the main sheet here, because if there's any tension on it, the sail's not going to go all the way up.
Right.
And then you just start drawing her up, just like that.
Right.
Just like that. So now the main sheet's up. Oh, there you are.
Okay.
So if it binds it right in the beginning, because I had all the slugs kind of bunched up together there.
Right.
That's the reason it kind of bound up there for a second. But once the slugs are loose, that's it. And you pull that up, and now your main is up. And a lot of people will remove the downhaul at that point. I'll tend to leave it up all the time just because it's not in the way. If you do leave it up when you go to raise the main, you need to make sure that the main is on this side of it. If it goes up the other, you can see at the top it's going to bunch up because of the side it's on. So just need to pay attention to that and make sure that it's always there. So at that point, your main is up and you're sailing. Okay. And then the jib does not have to be, that sail you do not have to be facing into the wind in order to raise it. You can raise it up no matter what. So you just go ahead and get your main up, and then you're kind of sailing along. And then if you decide, okay, I feel comfortable getting this jib up, then you're going to go ahead and just make sure your jib lines, jib sheets are loosened. Make sure your downhaul, which is normally going to be cleated, keeping the jib down. Make sure it's loose, and then you're just going to draw it straight on up, just like that. And see, now it's going to grab wind. And there you are, and you're sailing with the main and the jib. Okay, great. So, and now on your right hand, you hold that. You're going to hold that line, or you can cleat it if you want. Cleat that one there. If it's a pretty easy going day, they're both cleated. And I tend to be something like this. I'm just enjoying it. If the wind is heavy, you've been out there and the wind's picking up and you're starting to get concerned, I'll still keep the jib cleated, but I uncleat the main and I keep it in my hand because it's easier to dump the wind real quick with the main. By just letting it go. Just let it go, because if you got it in too tight, then that wind's going to be really forcing it. And so if you let go of that main, it'll kick it on out, and that wind's going to dump. But again, by the same token, that's why I say put your knot at the bottom, because if that wind's really strong and it kicks it on, dumps it, and this thing runs out, and it's you got an issue. Okay, good. So at that point, with the when the wind will fill the sails, and you'll be good to go. And okay, now last question is, if you just show me how to reef that mainsail, then you can pack it all down, and I think that's great. Good lesson. All you got to do to let's see. First, typically what you're probably going to do is. All right, so say that you're out there. It's been a great day, but all of a sudden the wind's really kicking up. You're not feeling comfortable, so you want to drop sail or reef the mainsail. Okay. First thing that I'll tend to go ahead and do is just go ahead and get the jib down. Okay. So all you do for that is, no matter which direction, even if you got it tight over here, you're going to simply just get your downhaul, which is right here. You're going to uncleat the jib. It's going to start lowering itself. You're going to take this downhaul, and you're just going to do this. Oh, I see. That's a down. By pulling that, it brings it down. Exactly. I got you. There you go. Now the jib is down. It's down. All right. And then I'll go ahead at that point, because then you're going to have the sails flapping. I'll snug both sides. Just to make sure that it's good to go. All right. Okay. And you will want to go ahead and take the downhaul and run a quick cleat on or something, because otherwise, if it's heavy, it's going to start drawing it back out. Sure. Then to reef the main, all you're going to do is just loosen it up. Again, if you've got wind fighting you, it's going to be a little more difficult. But all you can do is bring this down to here. You're going to cleat it back right there. Oh, and then you tie it. That's it, yeah. And that's called a reef point. That's it. Now it's reefed. Reduces the sail. Now let me ask you a question for a beginner. I'm sorry. Let's say, and then in the back, you got the extra line here. What I'll tend to do is you can wrap it through this and run it back to the cleat, the whole back side down. And that's it. You can see how much you reduced your mainsail size. Yeah. Okay. Now for a beginner, what knot wind would you think was on the safe side to sail it reefed? I would say you could put anything over, probably if you're getting around 12 knot or something like that. Should reef at 12, all right. Yeah, you might want to go ahead and put a reef. I think you can really get away with more than that. If you're a really good experienced sailor, you could probably, but for someone like me, the feel of it. Yeah. And, so I mean, if it's there's nothing wrong with a day like today on going sailing if you want. If you go out, if you say I want to go out today, then you can start the day, go ahead and reef it, and you can put your jib on just in case, but probably not even raise it. And you can get out there and you can sail with just that little bit of main. And it's enough to move the boat, and you're okay. Great. Okay. So. Good. Well, I think you've really covered everything. And I'll just film you while you pack it down. Okay. All right. So all you're gonna do is once you're coming back in. Same thing, is face it into the wind as best you can. Now, if the winds are really fighting and it's getting to be a scary moment all of a sudden, you can get the sail down no matter your wind direction. It's going to be much easier if you can do it, though, facing into the wind the same way. All you're going to do with it.
And you do that maybe with this tiller tight, you know,
right,
set the tiller right.
Correct. You'll have your tiller tamer set, and that's going to help you to, if you got one of your boys with you, he can be the tiller
They can
tamer.
hold it, yeah.
But otherwise, correct, you're going to get it, and as long as the motor is still propelling you well, straight,
right,
then you can face it into the wind and set the tiller, so make sure you got plenty of clearance ahead of you at that point while you're still motoring, and it's going to hold you into the wind pretty darn well.
Great.
And
yeah.
Then for the main sail, you do have to come. There is no downhaul for main.
Right. Okay.
So, but you know, you can see the reason for a downhaul for the jibs. You don't want to go climbing on the bow and maybe
sure.
fall off. But here, you just step up in here. You can step all over the centerboard trunk if you want.
Right.
And just basically pull the main all the way down. And if you know you're done for the day, even when you pull it, you can go ahead and pull this here out and slip it in your pocket, and then say with it just continues to, you know, fall straight on out.
Right. Okay.
So that's the reason. Without that, if you were to get out there and you start putting it up, and you know the waves are starting to shake you, it's a little harder to get all the slugs in, which is why I go ahead and feed it at the dock.
Okay.
But so that's it. You go ahead and do that. So even at the end of the day, while I'm still out in the water and I go to bring down the main, I'll tend to pull that on out, hold this up, go ahead and run your lines around it.
Right.
And then
so you're just going to wrap it up with those telltales then?
Right. I'll just use those. I use these for about every
right.
time, you know,
okay.
So it's real handy. Just snug it up with that, and then just go ahead and take out the tension on your main sheet right here.
I see. Okay.
Because all that's going to do with the tension out as you're going, it's going to keep the boom from swinging around while you're out.
Right.
So at that point, everything is basically in reverse. First thing I'll tend to do is so show you. This here is just an extra piece I put to wrap around the tip, but itself is Velcro, and that's what holds the back in.
Okay.
All I do is take the back and slip the right side. If you keep everything in the boat, you're always going to have it in the boat. I'm just taking that slack out where I can just kind of wrap it around the cleat on this side here, just to keep it out the way. And of course, I did miss one thing. I just realized after you do get the main on and it's sitting down, or you actually when you first put the boom on and then get the main, once you raise the main, you do need to cleat this down here.
Okay.
Or you can do it as soon as you slip the boom on. All that does is once the main sail is all the way up, it keeps you from pulling the boom out.
Okay.
Right here.
Gotcha.
So I did forget about that.
That's all right. I have it on tape.
Okay. So once that's there, come on to the back. Right there. Thing on the front. Go ahead and undo the main. Now it's completely off. You don't have to necessarily tape this part. There's two ideas behind. So normally I've got everything in the boat, and that's the bag right there, the green bag that'll hold the main and the jib.
Right.
So
okay.
Usually it's sitting in the boat, and as soon as I take the sails out, it goes back into the cockpit.
Right.
And so as soon as I get the main off, I go ahead and put it in the bag, and the same thing with the jib.
Okay.
But what I'll tend to, our marina has a water facility there with a spray and all. So I'll take the boat out, I spray everything down, and I'll tend to hang out there. Usually old sailors there. The marina I go to has got a Potter 19 that's always there, and so he and I shoot the breeze while the boat's kind of drying.
Right.
If I don't get that opportunity to spray it off, then I tend to the next day try to shoot it off as best I can in the driveway.
Right. Okay.
It can handle it, but I like
sure.
rinsing it down.
Sure.
Okay, and then go ahead and climb out.
Now at this point you could just motor back in and do all this putting down once you get back to the dock.
Yeah, once the
sails are down.
Once the sails are down, right, this part here, I guess I skipped, is all done. The sails are down. At this point all you're doing is motoring in.
Right.
So you get up to the dock, at that point you go get the trailer lowered into the water. You'll have a pretty good idea once you first launch it. You'll see how it floats, but the water is going to be over the rear wheels. but you'll have that to kind of judge on where the water needs to be when
Right.
you first lower the trailer back in. Once it's in there, then the boat, I usually can get it to float to where it's somewhere around in this general range.
Right.
And you can walk all the way, walk down here, and you just let your strap out and hook up to it, and then come back and just winch your strap, and it's going to pull the boat right on up.
Okay.
These guides are going to keep it, you know,
Right.
real well to where you're going to fit right up in there.
Okay.
Once it's up and it's, you know, all the way, once it's in there and it's snugged up, then you're going to go ahead and put your safety chain on, and then I'll wrap up the bow line and just secure it back up here.
Okay.
So it's there and it's out the way, and I know where it's at. And so at that point, you go ahead and pull it out the water from the bungees. But because that's the main reason they're theirs.
Right.
But if I know I'm not going to use the anchor, there's no point in taking them off and having to put them back on later.
Right.
So with the bungees off, then at that point, this clip here, you can take it, you can hook it to the bow if you want. You can go ahead and clip it around the cleat, wherever you want.
All right.
But the rope's going to be really long at that point. I mean, so if you got a real deep area, then it's going to work fine. But otherwise, that'll act as just sort of your little safety there. You'll drop the anchor into the water, which like I said, comes by just lifting the clip up, take it off. When you drop it in, you'll take the rope and you'll just run it through one side or the other right here.
Right.
And all this does is just kind of help take the tension completely off of the cleat. And then you'll run your rope over and you'll cleat it at the right length. And then you can have a bunch of extra rope, and I'll tend to, you know, you can use that to kind of wrap up your extra.
Right, okay.
Kind of be aware that, so you don't start bending in a weird way with the batten in there. But that's it. You just stuff the main on into the bag. Just go ahead and remove that and just kind of let it sit somewhere where you can see it.
Right.
And go ahead and unclip the bottom of the jib from that clip. If you've got a knot or anything in your downhaul, just go ahead and pull it out and just completely pull the downhaul on out. And you go ahead and do the same with your jib sheets. Pull them up together, so I'll just toss it back over whatever side. And then on this side over here, I'll go ahead and just start rolling them up together. Go in reverse and just take all these off. Just make sure your rope, because sometimes if you go to do that, your rope might want to pop out your downhaul. Just make sure it stays in each of these clips whenever you do take them off.
Okay.
Typically, you know, you can always put the jib on first, the main on last, take the main down first, jib off last, you know, just that kind of thing going on first. So once that's done,
boom comes off next, just like?
That's correct.
All right.
I'm going to go ahead and take it off. What I do is once they come out, so you don't get them loose through there, I'll just take them and just put a little knot in the back like that. That way they're just held together. It pulls the pulleys basically up as much as it can go. And I'll tend to go ahead and run it through and just kind of give it a little flick in the back, so it's just kind of holding all the lines up. And then from there, same thing as I did up in the front. Go ahead and wrap it up, and with it I'll tend to go ahead and kind of run it underneath this other line that I've got. That way it just holds it all up just like that. So now that's all good to go. Take the topping lift off and just let the boom lower and sit down. Bring the topping lift back up and just run it around the cleat. And you can make sure you take the jib line. Just clean it off where it's solid. The main thing right now is just make sure all these lines are kind of loose, because when you do take the mast down, they're going to be stretched out. So the boom just comes off. And I just immediately take it, go ahead and remove the rudder. So there's that clip, move it out the way, and then it just comes right off.
Okay, and where do we store the rudder? In the car? In the car or the?
Well, you can. A lot of times, I'll just for travel purpose, just back towards the marina, I'll slip it just in the cockpit of the boat, because it'll rest fine in there.
Right.
And when I get home, I take it out and stick it in the garage.
Right. Okay.
So that will be the only item that will tend to not be in the boat.
Gotcha.
But it's really easy to say, okay, when I'm getting ready to go, I got to grab the rudder.
Right.
And if there's only one thing you got to remember, then you know, no big deal.
Right.
It tends to be the motor is like one of the in the beginning I'll put it on. It's also kind of like one of the last things.
Right.
Because I feel like for me, there's certain things that I can keep in my mind that I know if I'm at that point, other things have been done.
Right.
So it's like if I know that I'm about to take this motor off and then put it on the trailer, everything else should be done. This should be the last thing I've got to strap, and I'm good to go.
Right.
And so if I'm not confident enough to take this motor off yet, I need to look over everything and
right.
and
Gotcha.
so forth. So that's just one of those last kind of things. Let's see. So going back in reverse, we'll come up the front. Pull that clip. Just like that. It's going to take the tension off. Just put your clip back through. That's why I'll tend to go ahead and I'll just bring it around to this side here. Velcro it too, just so you know where it's at next time when you need to go to use it.
Gotcha.
So otherwise it'll bounce around or something
Right.
You come up and take your first clip out at that point. But again, you want your hatch closed. Kind of wiggle the mast a little bit, just to where it makes it easy to slide that first pin out. Once that pin's out, you see, I mean, this thing is so light, it's no big deal. Lower it down, sit it right on there. Go ahead and put that pin back in. And this is when the little buddy here comes in handy. So he's going to go in there, and at the same time you can go ahead and pull this one out. The one with the rusted clip pin and the Velcro around it, all that does to me is remind me this is the one. Its sole purpose is to attach the mast to the bow pulpit when you're done. So he can just come well. Stick it right back in the bucket. And the mast is free. Right up to the front here.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Again, with that roller, it makes it easy for you to adjust rather than if it had that other piece. This is just going to slip right back up into here. Kind of snug off lines like this here. And that's when, again, you start using the Velcro. It's another thing I tend to do in the boat. You ready for it?
Yeah.
Just put that there. That side's got a clip, so it's it's going to stay in place while you walk over to here. This side does not have a little clip piece on it, which is why you clip the other side first.
Right.
The way it holds it in place. All it's going to do is sit. Let's go right in there, just the same. Then you take your slack out right here, but not too tight. Kind of. Normally you don't have to worry about it so much, but since you're going on a long drive, just have it pretty well straight across. Take your slack out, and then this here pulls real tight on it.
Right.
And then that just straps over just like that. Okay. And you're good to go.
All right. This is my new boat.
On this side, and then first, whenever it's around, it's got a lock on it, so in case you're turning, it won't pop open. So basically, you pop it up like this, and then kick it over to the side. I'm not used to doing it from standing back here.
Right.
Anyways, it clicks up, and there you go.
Gotcha.
All
right. That'd be for beaching it or for sailing.
Right. If you're, I tend to do it most of the time.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah.
Yeah. So, because it just gets everything out the water.
Right.
You don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
Forcing against it. But if you had it in reverse, it's going to lock you in place. So that's what that does. So that's why you've got to pop it loose from there first before rotating it. And again, when you're actually in the boat, it's easier to work with it.
Okay, good.
The main sail, I tend to just kind of keep it. It's actually got the main and the jib in it. I'll kind of set myself up so I've got it in there. I've got my little cup in there. I'll tend to take the flag. I'll go ahead and do it next. All you do with it is it's got a couple of little clips like there, and then they just, you know, clip there and down there, and that's it. Take it off before you ride with it, because the wind is enough to where it would probably, you know, pop your ladder down. If you had it mounted here, you probably wouldn't have to worry about that.
Right.
Windex.
Okay.
What the Windex does is when it's on the top of your mast, it's going to tell you where the wind's coming from when it's, you know, blowing. It does better when it's up the top of a mast, of course. So you take it, and there's the little screw right here. So you just loosen that up, and it'll slip right into here, and then you'll snug it back up, just like that. Okay. And so now that's mounted in there. These don't really, I just kind of center them up, and you know, that's about it. Like removing the bungees I got up here for traveling time. Typically I've got the sails and all in here, so while I'm up here, I'll undo this as I'm pulling things out. Okay. And all that these are here for is just, you just don't want your lines slapping all over the place when you're, you know, driving down the road. Right. So once you take them off, they can just go right back into the vehicle, or, you know, toss them in down below if you want. Factory for this actually has a piece of rubber V that sits right here, and that's where the mast sits down. So I actually had these pieces here bent and added a roller to it, so it bumps it up a little higher, but then it makes it easier for you to roll the mast out rather than having to pick it up. Okay. Okay, you're on. Alright, so you come to the front of the boat, and right here where this piece of Velcro is, you got a pin that runs all the way through, and it's holding the foot of the mast, and so it's there for travel purposes. So what you'll do is you'll just kind of work that out and pop it free, and that's it. So now your mast is clear. Just kind of gently lay it down as best where it can go. At that point, this is going to just get stored again with your little buddy. Right. So that's what I say. This here just kind of sticks with you for all times. So it'll just get slipped into there. Kind of make sure all lines are loose and free across there. I tend to just lay them up there for storage purposes. You know what's rolling. Okay, there's two here out of that box. It's just these two stainless clips here. So I'm gonna close this. End up needing to let your lines free. This is just for basically when you're done sailing. I tend to have a little knot key. And all these, I'll slip them in my pocket. That way, you know, they're there at the end of the day. Right. Or you can stick them in that there if you want. So those just need to be loosened up in order for you to get the mast, which is really light. Right. Oh, I see.
Looks like you're using that supporter there.
Right.
Okay.
Just kind of using it, and so see, you can keep picking up and moving it, but sometimes when you're paying attention, it's easier if it can just kind of roll.
Right.
Back
Okay.
and forth. So we'll make sure all lines and everything's clear.
Okay.
So, and you also want to make sure your hatch is in a closed position. If it's in the open position, you see it's going to kind of hit up against it. So you just go ahead and close it like that. And then we're going to take one of these here, and then you got your little clip on it. I'll give you a little more room. So we're going to take this here, and we're going to slip it at the foot of the mast, and then just take the little clip and slip it right back through the hole. One of the things though, said you'll end up with your own system down. That's why I tell my wife, go down the water, because then I can kind of, so it's a little more complicated trying to think about it. And do it. Okay, so then one of the main things after that you're going to want to do is just take a quick visual of your lines. You want to make sure that your side stays are loose like they're supposed to be, like right over there.
Right.
We'll just verify. Yeah, this one here is kind of cocked over. So.
Okay.
Want to make sure that they're loose and like they're supposed to be, and then the same thing goes at the top. So I want to make sure, because sometimes if you raise the mast, I don't know if you can see how that one looks. It's kind of up the, around the top.
Right.
If you raise it, it can bind up. So you just want to kind of, as you're doing it,
make sure that little metal clip is free and easy, not all twisted.
It's supposed to look like that.
Right. Okay.
So you just do that on each side. So I'll go ahead and get this guy here ready. So pull his little clip out. And just kind of easy raise it up. Watch out for all the lines.
Hold on. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. I'm going to film from down here. Hold on.
Go ahead and slide this open. That gives you more room. You can walk up in here and all that.
Right.
So then we're going to put that one. There it is. So that one will go in. This mast is so light. A heavy boat, you want to go ahead and run your forestay up, but this boat you don't have to worry about it. You can use the jib line if you wanted to disconnect it and run it to the top. But I've actually never had any kind of problem because it's so light, and this is good and strong over here. So that'll hold well enough.
Good.
This is your forestay. I just strap it over here to get it out the way for when you're getting ready to travel. So again, with your own, when you figure out your own system, you do it. But this one here, you make sure it's good and loose from the top. And what it's going to do is it's got a clip. You don't bother with this side here. This one's already pre-adjusted for what it needs to with all the numbers, so you don't have to worry with it. You're going to bother just with the bottom one, and you're just going to pop the clip out and the pin, and then it's going to go right up in here in the center, which is right above where this clip stays. So it's just going to go right in there, and then you're going to take your clip. So it just went into here and it clips in place, and that's your forestay there. And so all lines tend to stay pretty loose for the meantime, but of course once your sail's on there, that's when everything tenses up. So at that point the mast is up. If your mast is up, got an airplane coming over. You can motor it at this point. You can motor it all day with the sails up or down and so forth. The main thing is your side stays and your forestay. Those are the three lines that stabilize the mast. It will hold up okay on its own when you're just on dry, but when you get in the water, you don't want any kind of shaking around. Right.
Now this one's already attached though. This one, you just take the Velcro off, or is that already set the way it should be, or?
Right. Now, that's correct. This here, the reason this Velcro is here is just to make sure this pin stays put.
Gotcha.
It's never had a problem. It's just one of those things.
Sure.
I like Velcro.
Yeah.
On the opposite, then you need to remember this is how your mast light gets power. It's basically like a trailer plug.
Okay.
So you'll just plug that in, and at that point, it's got power from the switch. Saying about the Windex. Now, if you look at it up there, it's telling you which direction the wind's coming from. So that'll be very helpful when you're ready to raise the sails. Again, like it was mentioned to you earlier, you want the boat pointed into the wind. So you can kind of put the boat on motor and just kind of run into the wind, and it'll make it really easy. And this has got the single handlers package on it, which means you raise your jib line here and your mainsail over there, all from the cockpit. You don't have to get out of the boat.
Okay.
And I'll show that to you here shortly. This comes out, and you can stick it in the cockpit if you want. I normally just put it in the truck.
Put in the truck, yeah.
Right, because it's no longer needed until time to bring the mast down.
Right, okay.
You get your rudder. Make sure the lines there are clear. And the rudder just slips right down, and it's got its own little clip right there that fastens it in, and that's it, it's in place.
Okay.
So when you go to take it off, you'll have to remember just push on that clip when you lift up on it.
Okay.
So that's it for the rudder. Now it's in place.
And then to put the rudder down, you just unscrew it there
actually,
once you're in the water? Or?
This is a tensioner, and it's set pretty well so far on it. So then you've got, in order to raise and lower it, your line is right here. So you'll pop this free, and then you see it starts to drop, and then you can pull on this one, which will pull it on down.
I see.
And then the same thing to raise it. Of course, like if you're up inside the boat, it's going to pull up real easy, but it'll pull up like that, and then you just slip it right into its cleat right there.
Right, okay.
Now, here's the thing with the length of this line. I'm always concerned that somehow it's going to get somewhere, I don't know, tangled. So I've got this little suction cup piece right here.
Okay.
And the only reason I stuck it there is it gives me peace of mind where I just kind of do that with the line. That way it's just out the way, and I can see it, I know where it's at. I may be a little more anal about certain things, but anyway, so once you get that on there, let's see, got the cushion, there's a storage space as well.
Yeah, I'm going to come up there with you for this part. This is about the, is this the centerboard?
Yeah, we can go ahead and do the centerboard.
All right, hold on.
If you want. If you wanted to use them, you do that, or whatever you want to do. Now, with the centerboard here, I had to file out a little bit a slot because that's actually where the pulleys kind of come and sit. So I don't know why they didn't just, I meant to use like a Dremel and make a nice little perfect circle, and I just ended up not doing it. But anyway, so here's where the line is cleated, right here for the centerboard. So just uncleat it, and then this is like an extra little secure piece too, so you'll pop it out, and it is 100 pounds. It will start to drop. Don't just pop it and let it go.
Right.
So you're gonna just let it go down easy, and since the trailer's there, I can't exactly do it, but it will come down, and then like I said, the pulleys that are attached at the top are gonna basically rest right up into here.
Okay.
And then at that point, you go ahead and just, you know, you can pop it in, cleat a little bit if you want. And what they say you should do afterwards is you take your extra line at the end, and once the board is down, you're gonna have that little bit of lead sitting here. So you'll run the line across it and cleat it over here.
Okay.
And what that'll do is, in case the boat topples over, then that you don't have that 100 pounds suddenly slam up into the boat. But the downside of that is, if you run aground and it's like that, it's solid.
Sure.
So I never worry. I never take the boat in a situation where I feel scared that it's going to get knocked over. So I just leave it undone because I tend to beach it more often than anything.
Right. And then it's more looser in there, and then you can pull it up easier too when you want to beach it.
Well, it's right. I mean, you just don't have to worry about undoing this line here.
Right.
Now, when you go to pull it up, you can pull it. It's just got the pulleys. It makes it pretty easy. So what I'll do is I'll start to pull it a little bit, and when it gets to about somewhere in this area, I'll make it real easy, and I'll tend to just push it with my hand all the way to here, take the slack out. So I'm not actually using the pulleys to force on it, you know. But that's what it's designed for. When it does come up real easy, it pivots pretty well. Let's see. Okay,
and it's if you're just motoring the boat, you don't need to put it down, but it'll stabilize the boat if you do.
Well, the boat drives so much better and everything with that board down.
Okay,
so,
then I'll just keep it down.
What I'll tend to do is, as soon as it's launched and everything's in there, one of the first things I do is, if there's enough water, I'll go ahead and drop it down.
Right.
If there's not enough, because at that point it's got like 3 feet worth of draft. If there's not enough water, I'll at least put it down a foot or so. So you might raise it, and then you got this at sort of an angle like this.
So you can
oh yeah, you can adjust
control
it.
how deep it is.
Right.
By how? By just tying the line off. Okay.
That's it, because it's heavy. That's what I say. When you untie it wants to come at you.
Right. Okay.
And so that's what you don't want to happen, because that's when you can start to worry about damaging stuff.
Sure.
So you just adjust that by just letting in and out on the line by however much you want.
Okay.
this is your mainsail batten, and so you'll see it being used here shortly.
Okay.
So it stays in the boat as well. This here is your boom. The boom fits pretty well up into the boat. Like I said, I keep everything in the boat, but it's a snug fit, so you got to kind of make sure you're at the very tip and the very, you know, all the way up front, and then it gives you enough space to get it to come out.
Right. Okay.
This little piece right here on the bottom, I've got that set at a pretty good height, so you leave that one in place. This one we'll take out shortly, briefly, in just a few minutes. So then you got a slider right here on the boom. So you have it to where your clip is up top, because that's where the bottom of the mainsail is going to clip onto.
Okay.
And it just simply goes right in there and slides down just like that.
Okay.
Now the back end, you can lay it however you need to lay it for the meantime. This here line right here, the one, remember the red one here is going to be your jib line. This is going to be your mainsail. And those are your halyards to raise the sails.
Okay, red for the jib, green for the mainsail.
Right, those are just the halyards just to raise the sails.
Okay.
This extra line here, I've got all this extra bundled up. You can end up cutting it off if you want, or however you want, because it's really not needed. I've got this part adjusted, so you just undo this here, but you leave that just sitting there.
You know, hold on, I'm gonna rewind.